of the best advice for women in business. Get your up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
If you haven't heard already, apparently nobody wants to work anymore. Who knew? At least that is according to folks like Kim Kardashian, countless article headlines, and this random couple at a comedy show.
What's your name? Sophia. What do you do? So he's rich? Okay, nice. What do you do? No one wants to work? You don't have a job.
Coming from these people's mouths, the idea that nobody wants to work anymore feels not only ridiculous, but kind of insulting. I mean, Kim Kardashian is a billionaire, and yes, I'm sure she works very hard, but is also likely out of touch with what everyday people's jobs even entail. I'm honestly not sure if she's even had to formally apply to a job before. And that couple from the comedy show sound just as out of touch, complaining about how nobody wants to work in their restaurant, while one of them doesn't even work to begin with. Business owners like that who complain that nobody wants to work anymore, my friend, maybe they just don't want to work for you anymore. I'll dive more into that idea shortly. But first, why are people saying this in the first place? Is it true that nobody really wants to work anymore? And whether or not it is true, does the mere fact that we are feeling some kind of way about work itself show that we are massively overdue for a change? I think so, and that is why I wanted to talk about this topic in today's video. If you like this kind of stuff, I make videos all about the intersection of money, media, and culture, so be sure to subscribe to keep up to date. And if you want to support my videos, become a patron today on Patreon. The link is down below. Thank you to those who are patrons. So our first question is this: why are people saying that nobody wants to work anymore? And is it true? I'll be honest, sometimes it can feel true because so many businesses seem understaffed these days, which sucks from both ends because it puts more pressure on the folks who are working there, and it can make for a more frustrating experience as a customer. Like, have you ever called a customer service line only to be talking in circles with a robot or kept on hold for an hour? Luckily, that is not the case with every business, and it is certainly not the case with today's sponsor, Live Oak Bank, which famously has an average wait time to talk to a human of only 1 minute. I think this is great, especially for banking, because navigating financial topics alone can be very tricky, very confusing. Like, even though I talk and obsess about money and personal finance all the time, I am still regularly texting my parents so many different questions, including about banking stuff, like, how do I do this? And what's this mean? And what kind of account do I need? But even they cannot answer everything, like when it comes to running my small business. And that is where Live Oak Bank is an incredible resource, especially for small businesses and personal accounts. They're a digitally focused FDIC insured bank that serves customers across the United States. But like I said earlier, the thing that really stands out to me and the reason that I was really excited to partner with Live Oak Bank is the fact that you know you are going to get to talk to a real person for help when you need it. No more putting off money moves because you can't figure something out on the website or you just don't know who to talk to. With Live Oak Bank, you'll have access to great banking options, very competitive interest rates, and fantastic customer service. Plus, for a limited time, earn $300 when you open a new personal savings account. To get started or learn more, check out the link in my description box, and a huge thank you to Live Oak Bank for sponsoring today's video. All right, but back to the question of why people are saying nobody wants to work anymore, and is it true? Now, obviously, I haven't polled every single person in the world, not recently at least, but here's my take based on my opinion and some research that I've done. So I think there are kernels of truth to the nobody wants to work anymore concerns. One of the kernels being the declining labor participation rate. Right now, the labor force participation rate in the US is at 62.6% as of January 2025. But 20 years ago, it was 65.8%. You can't ignore it. The data shows a decline. But data needs context, right? So yes, the rate has gone down, but also yes, our population is getting older. As the Employee Benefit Research Institute explains, quote, the decrease is being driven by the smaller number of people of these ages. So, I guess we just pack it up now. The video's been answered. We don't have anything else, to explore. Not quite. This is an insanely complicated issue because the idea of nobody wants to work anymore is basically pulling in economics and politics, sociology, psychology, culture. It's all mashed together. And as much as us humans crave simple black and white answers, it's just not possible here. And I would argue that anybody who is trying to sell you or tell you a simple answer to any of this is either trying to manipulate you or is just not considering enough information. You wouldn't have thought that a Kardashian quote would open such a can of worms. Anyways, the answers get complicated because it doesn't just seem to be age that is taking people out of working. For example, young men have been seeing a decline in labor participation for a while now, and the main theory here is that fewer men are deciding to go to college, thus making it harder for them to be employable with the kinds of jobs that our modern society offers. Whereas mothers with kids under 18 have also seen a decline in labor participation in recent years. However, this group seems to be leaving the workforce because of childcare constraints and wanting or needing to stay at home with kids, something that we actually saw a huge uptick in during COVID. I think it's important to acknowledge these different forces that are at play because it informs how we understand and maybe even solve for these problems. Back to the question at hand though of why are people saying nobody wants to work anymore, and is it true? I feel like I've said that a lot now in this video, but I think that yes, it is true that fewer people seem to be working in the recognized labor force right now. But the nobody wants part is the part that I disagree with, because I actually think that people really want to work. It's just that work isn't holding up its end of the modern bargain. See, my hot take is that humans like to work. They love to work. Maybe it sounds crazy, but I truly think that we humans, our animal selves, we love having tasks. We love accomplishing things, problem solving, collaborating, creating. The things that make up work are things that we find joy and fulfillment in. Just think about your own life for a second. Say that tomorrow you are given millions of dollars in your bank account and you never have to work an official job ever again. You are set. And once you've decompressed, healed from your burnout, and maybe taken a year-long vacation, what would you do with your time? Seriously, think about it. What would you want your day to look like? My bet is that most of you wouldn't want to just sit on the beach drinking Mai Tais all day for every day the rest of your life. I genuinely think, and maybe this is me just being crazy and a workaholic or something, but I genuinely think that people would want to continue some type of work, whether that's volunteering or becoming a writer or opening a cute little bakery or doing some type of part-time work at a company that you like. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments and let me know what you would do if you had that situation, but I would suspect that most people are drawn to working in some capacity. That being said, work in the deep intrinsic sense is not the same as work that we've defined in our modern society. And that is where I think we are seeing this fracture happen. Business owners like the one in that comedy clip can complain that no one wants to work for them, but that might be because they aren't offering something worth working for. Do they have competitive pay and benefits? Are they good managers? Is their workplace toxic? Those kinds of things matter when workers have options. And workers do have a degree of options these days, whether they're great or not. There are different businesses that they can apply to or job hop to. There are options like pursuing grad school or career pivots available. And it's easier to start a business of your own now more than ever before. And for those who are close to their family, they might even have the option to stay at home and not need to work for a while. So like I said earlier in this video, it's not always that people don't want to work in general. It just might be that they don't want to work for you. To back this up, look at the companies ranked best for employee retention and low turnover, meaning that they have fewer people leaving their company. You've got companies like HSBC Bank USA, Neutrogena, and a surprising number of airlines. So what do those businesses have in common? They often offer great benefits, high pay potential, they invest in their employees' growth and development, and they try to offer more positive work environments. It's crazy to think that that's what makes people want to stay at a job. Literally would have never guessed. CareerPlug has a great article covering this exact topic of how to get more applicants to your job posting, and it's chock full of great insights like 1. How the In-N-Out hamburger chain believes high wages translate to high productivity and low turnover among fast food workers, or how candidates have higher expectations from an employer than ever before. Or this absolutely golden quote saying, quote, "As an employer, it can feel like there are less employees out there that actually want to work. But when we take a more nuanced look at what's happening to the labor market, we find evidence that those job seekers actually do want to work, just for companies that promise increased pay and security, often in different industries altogether." Now, I'm sure some would say that argument is just evidence of entitlement. Like, all right, so you people want to work, but only if you're pampered to the end of the earth, huh? You know, back in the day, a lot of finger wagging, there weren't all these fancy schmancy benefits, and we made a nickel a day. Okay, maybe they aren't saying it like that, maybe there's less finger wagging, but I do think the argument of entitlement is a popular one, and I think there's some validity to it, but only if you were to live in a vacuum where context is completely thrown out the door. Because yes, today's working conditions are far better than they were in previous history. The past saw working conditions where people worked 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. There was child labor rampant, and safety measures were never even considered. And honestly, despite feelings of exhaustion we might have nowadays, in reality, we are working fewer hours than ever. Our World in Data is one of my absolute favorite sources of insights on this world, specifically because they do the important work of combating doomerism. It's easy to be pessimistic these days, especially when the internet fuels echo chambers, rage bait, and doomer content. But as Our World in Data lays out, when you zoom out, most things are improving in our world, including the fact that we aren't working as many hours as our ancestors, and we are having more time off than ever before. So yes, today's work is in many ways easier, but is it inherently entitled to want better, even if in the past something was worse? I don't think so. Like, yes, we need to incorporate more gratitude into our lives, no doubt, but I also think that we need to keep pushing for improvements or progress is never going to happen. Here's an insane analogy. Nobody asked for to really drill this point home, because you guys know I love my insane analogies. So back in the day, like centuries ago, poor people's bread was often baked with sawdust in it to save money. Sawdust was cheaper, it acted like a good filler, but it had no nutritional benefits. Not to mention, it was straight up dangerous for human bodies. It's sawdust, literally sawdust. Anyways, nowadays, we have plenty of bread options out there, including Wonder Bread, that hyper-processed and overly sugary white bread that looks like an emoji. Now, say someone was telling you to only eat Wonder Bread, and if you said you wanted any other kind of bread, maybe something healthier like whole wheat, they would call you entitled. Quote, "No one wants to enjoy carbs anymore," they might say. And yeah, you know what? If that person was a time traveler from the French Revolution, they probably would think that we are picky snobs, and maybe they would even be entitled to say that. But we aren't time travelers, are we? No, we have so many options now, even a fresh bakery in the grocery store. Bread is easier to make than it was centuries ago, and we have technology that lets us mass produce flour so that we don't need to put sawdust in our bread anymore. It's not entitled to not want sawdust bread. It's recognizing that we have progressed as a society beyond sawdust bread. Similarly, our society has experienced incredible technological advances that have sped up our productivity. Shouldn't that come with better working conditions that meet the desires of today's workers? It's interesting how different our workplaces are unfolding compared to what people a century ago theorized. There's this British economist from the early 20th century named John Maynard Keynes, and he wrote an essay in 1930 titled "Economic Possibilities for Our Grandchildren." This thing is so fascinating because he predicts that by 2030, which is only 5 years away, technological advancements would allow people to work only 15 hours a week because productivity would be so high that we wouldn't need to work as much. Even crazier, he thought that the biggest challenge that we would be facing right now would be just figuring out how to enjoy so much free time. My guy, John, if only you could see what we were up to. At the risk of sounding overdramatic, I think part of the nobody wants to work anymore vibe is because our social contract is failing right now. People feel like the benefits of our modern, productive, and excessive world aren't being properly shared. Some of that I do think comes from things like social media making it easy, really easy, to constantly compare our lives to others, but I also think a lot of it's real. We have a world of technology and productivity that should translate to better quality of life and better public investments and more leisure time, but that hasn't been fully delivered. And that there answers what was our third question. Is this whole nobody wants to work anymore sentiment a sign that we are overdue for a change? I think yes. Trends like this are important signals of what might not be working anymore and what needs to be adjusted so that we can level up as a society. I am very much not a
throw it all away and burn the system down
kind of person. Hot take, but I actually think a lot of times those mindsets can be intellectually lazy. Come at me in the comments. But I do think that we should consider how to ask more from work, because the real conversation isn't that nobody wants to work anymore. It's how do we make work worth wanting? But what do you think? Is there something I missed in this whole nobody wants to work anymore trend? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what topics you want to see me cover next. And if you like this video, I think you'll really like my videos on Let's Talk Being House Poor or Let's Talk the Golden Handcuff Trap. And thank you so much to my patrons on Patreon and those on Buy Me a Coffee Coffee for helping support this channel. Thank you all for watching and subscribing, and I will see you next time. Bye.